Hello and welcome to the next edition of Coach's Corner. I'm Darren Kittleson. I'm the CRB President-elect for 2012, and I'm also a coach of real estate agents and business professionals. I just want to share with you over the next few minutes a concept that I think could make a big difference for your agents as you coach and help them develop. Now, here's the first thing to remember. As humans, we tend to go towards negatives whenever something happens in our life. And I'm going to show you what I call the cycle of prediction as to how that happens, and then how you might be able to work with your agents to have them understand how to stop that cycle and ultimately leave them finding more success in their business. So what I'd like for you to do is grab a sheet of paper and a pencil or something to write with. Now on that sheet of paper, draw one big circle and put a hash mark at 12 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock. So you've got a circle with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different hash marks in it. Now, at 12 o'clock, write this at that hash mark. Something happens. Something happens. Now draw an arrow from 12 o'clock to 2 on the inside of the circle. And at 2 o'clock, write this. We react. We react. Then draw another line down to 4 o'clock on the inside, an arrow, if you will. And then write the following. We make a judgment. We make a judgment. So far I've got something happens at 12. We react at 2. We make a judgment at 4. And at 6 o'clock, write we make up a story. We make up a story. Again, draw an arrow from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Again, it's the cycle. And at 8 o'clock, draw an arrow from 6 to 8 o'clock and write the following. We gather evidence. We gather evidence. And at 10 o'clock, with an arrow going from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, write, we predict our future. We predict our future. And then an arrow to something happens. So in the center of that, write, this is the cycle of prediction. The cycle of prediction. So now that you've done that, this is what that should look like. I'm just going to hold it up so you can see it. I just want to speak to it for a moment of how this really works. So first and foremost, understand that I believe, and I think you would agree with me, that so much of success in real estate, in this real estate business, has to do with what's going on up here in the mind of our agents. So I'm going to show you how this cycle might play out. I'm just going to give you a scenario. So it's Monday morning at 9 a.m. Your agent is in the office doing what they're supposed to be doing first thing in the morning, and in our world that's lead generation, and they're sticking to their schedule. It's the beginning of the year and they're doing really well with that. They get a phone call, and it's from a seller of a listing they took 4 weeks ago. And that seller says, you know what, agent, we want to meet with you. We want to meet with you today at 2 o'clock, and we'd like to do that in your office. So the agent, so that something happens as the seller calls and it asks for a meeting. The reaction at 2 o'clock is at 2 o'clock they want to meet, so that the agent schedules that meeting. And then the agent starts getting into their head, and so they make a judgment. And because we're wired typically as humans to go towards negative, the judgment they make is typically a negative. So the judgment might be, oh man, the seller's not happy, the house has been on the market for 4 weeks and I don't have it sold. And the story they make up is that the seller's coming in at 2 o'clock to want to cancel their listing agreement with me, and I'm going to lose that piece of business. And then they go to work gathering evidence, and they do everything they can to show why the seller might be coming in because they're angry, and all the reasons that the seller shouldn't cancel the listing with them. So they drop everything else in their day, and they work towards that because they're so focused on not losing that listing at that meeting at 2 o'clock. And in essence, they start predicting their future, that when that seller walks in, they're going to cancel their listing. Now, here's what happens. Because they go into that negative spiral, or that downward spiral, if you will, they drop everything else they had planned for the day that moves their business forward, and they prepare for their meeting at 2 o'clock. Now, the seller shows up at 2, and here's what the seller says. Agent, we're just so pleased that the work you've been doing to get our house sold. We've got 2 more investment properties we would like to list with you today. Very different outcome, isn't it? Now, what if the agent, when they got that call, scheduled that 2 o'clock appointment, would have made a judgment that the sellers were pleased with the job they'd been doing, and the sellers were coming in to talk to them about how they could help that agent do more business or bring them some referral business or some additional business. Either one would be true, and yet the one that helps the agent move forward is that latter, isn't it? Yeah, so there's a quote that comes to us from Eckhart Tolle, and I just love so much of what he's written. And here's what it says. It says, whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. So in using this cycle, you could use this cycle with your agents to have them understand that no matter what happens, what would it look like if we took it to the positive versus the negative, and what impact would that have on our business? That's it for me for this edition of Coach's Corner. I trust you're having a great start to 2012. I look forward to bringing more of these ideas to you and how to become better at coaching your agents in the months and years to come. Have a great day.